Welcome to ETF Market Insights, a weekly show focusing on the evolving world of ETF investing. Each Friday, a new panel of thought leaders aims to provide investment education and insights, with the goal of helping you become an informed investor. Make sure to visit youtube.com/ETF Market Insights to watch previous episodes. And remember to hit subscribe so you receive a notification when we post new content and when we go live each Friday. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get started.
Welcome back to ETF Market Insights. I'm your host, Erin Allen with BMO ETFs. And today we're going to do a demo of our newly launched free ETF investing tools. So I've been mentioning these a lot on the channel as of late. And today we're going to actually do a demo and walk you through some examples of how you can use these tools to do your due diligence around ETFs and help you make more informed decisions when it comes to your portfolios. Before we get started, a quick reminder that we're not providing any investment advice or recommendations today. It's all about education for investing in ETFs for Canadian do-it-yourself investors. With me today, I have Kevin Prince. He's the Managing Director and Head of Distribution of ETFs and Digital Distribution here at BMO Global Asset Management. Kevin, welcome to the channel. It's been a while. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
I can't think of a better guest for today. Kevin has over 25 years of experience in the industry. And during his career, he's actually authored several industry courses focused on ETFs for the Canadian Securities Institute. So if you're interested in taking even further step in your education around ETFs, you can check that out on the Canadian Securities website. Kevin had a big part of that. And he also really led the charge in terms of revamping and launching a number of new tools on our website. So these are free for Canadians. You can access them at bmoetfs.com. It covers the entire Canadian ETF universe and also F-Series mutual funds for that matter. So huge wealth of products that you can compare and screen against on that website. So I encourage you to check them out. But Kevin, curious, what spurred from your perspective the need to really revamp these ETF tools on our website?
I think, from our perspective, we're looking to make sure that we have tools designed by ETF experts so people can do analytics on ETFs from that perspective. So we saw there was a gap in the marketplace and we wanted to close that gap.
Yeah, and I think just the sheer number of products that are available out there have really led to a need for this, a need to be able to screen and sort of get through that 1,000 plus products and find the one that fits for your investment portfolio. We're totally unique in the marketplace, right? When it comes to these tools.
Oh, I think we have a whole suite of net new tools that are unique, and I think really helps investors look at ETFs from a new perspective and specifically how to get the right one for themselves.
Yeah, and it really speaks to our focus on education at BMO ETFs and our focus on transparency. We want you to find the right ETF for your portfolio. So let's get into the demo, Kevin. I think you're going to share your screen, but the first tool that I want to introduce is the ETF Comparison Tool. And as I mentioned, this tool, again, looks at the entire Canadian ETF marketplace. Let's look at asset allocation ETFs, or all-in-ones maybe is a good example, Kevin, because these are really widely popular. So let's demo the tool with an example. If I was a growth-focused investor looking at asset allocation ETFs, how might I use this tool to determine which ETF to invest in?
Perfect. So let's just jump in the tool. And if I'm in the tool, if you go to our homepage, bmoetfs.com, and with inside there, click on ETF tools directly. That could take you to our new landing page where we show all of the 8 new tools we offer the marketplace to help investors do their own due diligence. You mentioned specifically the ETF fund comparison. Let's go into there to start off. And what you'll get on here is the thought process is to offer you a side-by-side comparison of any ETF and any fund in the Canadian marketplace. Right off the bat, we'll give you a display of one of our ETFs, just kind of show you the information you can get out of the tool. Let's remove that from now so we can start the comparison process. And let's start bringing in various ETFs. So, for example, we can bring in ZGRO, which is our asset allocation ETF focused on the growth market. And then some of the competitors in the marketplace, we'll bring in BGRO, And we'll bring in X Grow. And for those out there that want to take a regular distribution out, you can also have zgrow.t. There you go. So there is 4 different ETFs listed up for an investor, providing you a side-by-side comparison of each one of them. And all the key pertinent facts for an investor. For example, the management fee is clearly listed for there. The risk rating is clearly listed. Various fund grades across the board. The objectives of the funds, as well as different risk metrics like standard deviation for that matter. You can see the performance metrics too of the various respective ETFs overlaid against each other. And then a little bit further down, you can actually see the individual periodic returns of the ETFs and their various quartile rankings across the board. Further, you can dive into the asset mixes of each one of the ETFs, as well as take a look at the specific sectors and geographical representations of each one of these ones. And then we even list for each one of the protective ETFs their overall holdings. But I will note too, if you wanted to dive even further detail than this, you can click on any one of the tickers and it'll go into a dedicated page on the respective ETF. We'll do that a little bit later, but what I want to show you now is the power of a side-by-side comparison across the board. And so, for example, in the performance here, you can see all 4 ETFs perform relatively similar to each other. Depending on the type of ETF you're looking for and the asset mix, you're going to have different performances over different time periods. But in addition to showing you the total return performance, which you can see here, you can also take a look at the price return performance of the various respective ETFs. And you might see some differences here in price return because there could be greater distributions or, of course, payments coming out of the ETF that you want to factor into that relative to your total return. Going back to total return here. But ultimately,
this is great transparency. I think we often get the question around asset allocation ETFs. A lot of investor thinks they're one and the same, but you can clearly see there's fee differences, there's differences in the underlying percentages in country weighting, in sector weighting, and so you can make your decision a bit more clearly based off of all of that. You can also download and share this, which I think is pretty cool. So you can get an Excel sheet if you want to get really detailed into it, or you can share it with a family member or a friend. How about S&P 500 ETFs? Let's do an example of how you would use this tool to compare those.
Thanks, Aaron. Certainly do that next. So we can bring in the various different types of S&P 500 ETFs. So I don't know. Let me bring in ZSP, for example.
You can also just search by S&P 500, right? If you don't know the ticker.
Oh, you're getting to the advanced features, but I like that, right? Right? Look at all this you can absolutely do, and you can search in those tickers. You can even search by just various names too. I put S&P in here, right? But I'm just going to keep typing the tickers in because I know some of them. Thanks, US. Right? And then we'll bring in, for example, VFV. Right? So here's a selection of different S&P 500 ETFs. You can again scroll down. You can start to see the fee aspects of them across the board. Generally, these are close to fees. Various fund grades are being ranked for them. And then various levels of information like their quarterly payment, distribution frequencies, right? Maybe it's more important for you to get a quarterly payment versus semi-annually if you want the income.
I think the AUM might be a good one to look at when it comes to an ETF like this. The size of the ETF is going to give you an idea of the tradability of it.
I have to agree. The size and scale is actually a key part of an ETF. And we even have a tool around that called largest and most liquid ETFs out there, but certainly you can see the various assets in there. Then you can scroll down and start to see the performance metrics. You're going to see very tight dispersion of all these. They were all holding the S&P 500 across the board. And then you can see the performance one more time on both a periodic returns and the calendar returns and the quartile rankings of them across the board. Then last but not least, some asset allocation information and sector information, which should be very similar for all of them, given their respective S&P 500 holdings.
And if you go back to the performance, I think sometimes the question that I get on S&P 500 ETFs, because you expect them to move and track the index and be exactly the same. But I do get questions around those slight differences in performance. People will sometimes look at those over whatever it is, a 6-month period, and see a slight difference in performance and ask me questions around that. So what could be causing those slight differences there, Kev?
Oh, it could be slight timing periods in the calculation of the data. I mean, essentially, they're all holding the same securities. So you want to look at them over a longer period of time. And when you're doing analytics of any ETF versus any ETF.
For sure. Things like FX, benchmark timing, that type of thing. There's a lot of little things that could impact it over shorter term periods. Another thing you can do, again, is you can share these. I encourage you to share this tool with other investors because a lot of people don't know these are out there. A lot of people don't know they're free. And so I think that's a great place to start for a lot of people.
And again, you can do any ETF in Canada, and you can do any mutual fund in Canada too, side by side, just to help you understand how they perform with each other, complement each other, duplicate each other. It's a good way of helping to build a portfolio.
You mentioned the largest and most liquid tool, Kevin. So let's talk a bit about that as a great place to start, maybe even before you get to the comparison tool.
Excellent. So, you can navigate that back from the largest and most liquid from the first initial page where we show all eight tools. But you can also jump to that from inside the tool where you see the largest, most liquid. And that'll allow you to get into ETFs that tend to be over $100 million in assets and trade over $1 million a day. A good way to start your due diligence because these ones tend to be the most liquid out there when it comes to ETFs. All ETFs are liquid. These ones might have a little tighter bid offer spread. So if you take a look at it initially, you'll see a default list of all the BMO ETFs that meet that criteria of the $100 million in assets and over $1 million a day. In addition, if you want to see the full universe of ETFs, just click on Show Results by All Providers, and it'll bring it all up. Now, this is going to be a little longer list, but not as long as the overall list of ETFs in Canada. And then from there, if you want to, you can even pick on various filters to further refine the list. And so on strategy, for example, let's say you want to focus on risk mitigation. So we'll click on low volatility. And here's the ETFs in Canada that trade over $1 million a day and have over $100 million in assets. Then if you want to jump into a quick comparison tool, you can click on all these ones together. And it's going to jump and bring that right back to the comparison tool where you can do that side-by-side comparison again. Great way to start off your due diligence on an ETF.
Very handy, yes. All right, let's talk about the next tool on our list, which is the ETF stock replacement tool. First of all, we've done a whole episode on how you can use ETFs as a stock replacement tool. So I encourage you to check that out. But Kevin, give us the Coles notes in terms of what is the benefit of ETFs over individual stocks, and then maybe walk through a few examples using the tool of why an investor might be searching for an ETF that could replace a stock.
No, happy to do that. The stock replacement tool is quite key. I think a lot of investors, may be watching BNN or reading Globe and Mail, whatever publication they read. They may come across a certain security that is of interest to them, but maybe they don't want the concentration of holding that one security and they want more diversification that comes from an ETF. Well, certainly you can do that. And that's where the stock replacement tool really comes in handy. All right, so we're inside the tool. All you have to do is add a stock. So for example, let's say you're following the gold theme right now. And one of the popular golds out there, of course, is Kinross. I pick K because it's easier for me to do. And I hit search. And that gives you all of the ETFs in Canada that are overweight Kinross. Now, that's just not just the BMO ones. You want to see all the ones out there. Here's all of them out there. You can see that ZJG Junior Gold has the dominant holding in Kinross out there, if that's what an investor wants to do. But again, it's a diversified way of holding it because you're not just holding Kinross, you're holding a basket. One quick thing I want to highlight about the tool here for stock replacement. Yes, you can put in one, but if you want to add in more stocks, you can clearly do that in here and up to 10 stocks. So if you're looking for example, the Magnificent Seven, you can do that through the tool and see which ETFs tend to hold a dominant position of those, or any other theme you're looking for, whether it be infrastructure or gold again, or even REITs for that matter. You can easily use a tool to find that part of the market and which ETFs are dominant in those types of holdings.
What about for tax loss selling? That's a strategy some investors use too. How might they use this tool for that?
Oh, it's probably one of the best places to use for tax loss selling. Thanks for bringing it up. Now, ultimately, when you think about tax loss selling, you're thinking about harvesting your tax losses, but you want to sit out for basically 31 days, get a similar exposure, and come back in. So think about that. If you're holding a security and you want to harvest that tax loss opportunity in the marketplace, this is a great way of maintaining that similar exposure in marketplace, and then in the 31 days move back. But it helps identify securities that would best match the existing holding you had, that you want to return back to.
For sure. This is a great tool for getting, broadening to get that diversification across your single stock holdings, and other situations where it might come handy. Tax loss selling is a great example of that. Let's go through our last tool that we're going to showcase today. Hopefully we can have you back and go through the rest of them since there's so many. But the next tool is the ETF Screener tool. And this one is fully customizable to your needs. I think this one's really handy. So walk us through a couple examples of how an investor might use this tool, Kev.
Certainly. So to get to that, again, you click on the top of the screen there and jump onto ETF Screener. And this is going to help you, pull together different criteria for you to select and search through the universe of Canadian ETFs. So let's go ahead and add a criteria. So maybe we want to start off with exposure, for example, right? And maybe we want to try look at a country for that matter. And it'll give us a list of different types of countries. And close that down. What countries do I want? Well, I want to focus in on the United States. Give me those particular types of ETFs. Now that's going to give me a large list. So we can hit search. And here's the list I'm going to get. Again, I can see all the providers that do it this way. And I can see, or just the BMO ETF, or just the BMO ETFs without that ticker. The other thing you do from a search perspective too, you can add even more criteria. So United States, maybe not enough criteria for you. Maybe you want to see something more on the performance aspect of an ETF. So you want a performance aspect. Maybe you want to look at the cost aspect, right? So maybe look at the management expense ratios. And you can set that as a mix here. So then you're going to get choices of where you want to set your management expense ratio. Well, I'll pick a little lower one here, right? So I'm going to add that criteria. And I'm going to hit close, and that's going to hit search. And then I'm now further refining my mix of different choices in the overall marketplace, allowing you to further dive deep into what ETFs meet your individual criteria and really help you dive into that. One thing I'll quickly highlight here too is the tool is fully integrated. So if you want to click on the compare buttons, then you'll then further jump back into that side-by-side comparison that we started off with.
Yeah, this is awesome. And there's so much criteria there. And I encourage you to play with the tool. And if there's criteria that you don't see there that you would like to see, leave us a comment below. It's something that we can always improve down the line. But other things like currency hedging, you can look at sector ETFs, you can look at ETFs that use leverage, or you can select, I want to look at ETFs that don't use leverage. There's so much you can do here. But again, we want to work with you guys. If there's something that's not working, comment or contact us, and we can definitely make improvements down the line. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today. I think that was a great demo of sort of the upper half of our tool selection, and hopefully we can get to the lower half another day and walk through those in more detail. Thanks
for having me. I encourage everybody to go into the tool and take a look yourselves, and hopefully it helps you in your journey to find the right investment.
Again, BMOETFs.com is where you can find them. You can also navigate there from our ETF Market Insights.com webpage as well, if that's your choice. So lots of ways to get there, and we hope you use them and hope you share them with your friends. That's all for today. Next week, we will be taking a break. It is a long weekend here in Canada, but we will see you back here in August. Have a great day. See you then. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of ETF Market Insights. To stream any previous episode of ETF Market Insights series, please visit youtube.com/ETF Market Insights. Remember to hit subscribe and sign up for alerts so you know when we post new content. Also, we invite you to visit our accompanying website for ETF tools, education, and much more at etfmarketinsights.com. Once again, thank you for watching. The session provided is for information purposes only. Any reference to a particular company or product is for illustrative purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell. Particular investments and/or trading strategies should be evaluated relative to the individual's investment objectives, and professional advice should be obtained with respect to any circumstance.